Okay.
I guess I'm gonna let Grandma and Grandpa start though about like what they remember about when they found out they were pregnant with another boy. Did you know that there was going to be another boy?
Not at all. It was a total surprise to us that number one, that we were pregnant, and number two, that we had a boy.
Hmm.
And we were very happy.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the name Mark?
8 pounds, 13 ounces. Well, it's a long story, but I went to kindergarten with Stephen, and Miss Burmeister, his teacher, said, write your names at the top of the page. They were doing something or other, and he writes S C. And she said question number 1, and they did question number 1. E P. Question number 2. H E. Question number 3. And I said, I think we need shorter names from now on. So it was too late for Therese, but we did okay with Mark and Paul.
So what was baby Uncle Mark like?
Well, he was the largest of the 3 so far. He was 8'13". Your dad was 5'12", 5 something.
Little man.
But Mark was 8'13", and he was a big kid, and he grew very fast. And we'd put him on the bassinet, and he'd hang off. His head would be off one side, and his feet off the other.
The dad said, the baby is as big as you. But he had asthmatic bronchitis, I think is how they called it. And whenever he got a cold, he'd wheeze, and it'd just drive me crazy. But other than that, he was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
He had a health episode too. He aspirated a peanut. He was running around doing something, or I don't know if he was crying or not, but at any rate, he aspirated it and had to take him to the hospital. And what was the procedure they did?
Well, they did 3 bronchoscopies. The first one, they looked, and they were blocked at a certain spot in his lung. And the second one, they put oil in there to see if the oil would go down past the blockage, and it didn't. And of course, the oil was not pleasant for him to recover from. And the third time they went down, the cardiothoracic surgeon who was doing the bronchoscopies, and in those days it was a long straight metal tube, just wanted to take his lung out. And the pediatrician kept saying, no, 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 no. The parents say they saw him aspirate, and I believe them. And so the third time he went down, he saw a pearly peanut sitting right there where the blockage had been, and he pulled it out, and Mark was better from then on. But it was a long haul for poor Mark.
And I think I took antibiotics because I developed like a pneumonia, didn't I? Tetracycline, was that when I took tetracycline that turned my teeth green and my bones?
Mark, the doctor that we had wasn't particularly good, and he gave tetracycline for everything. All I had to do was call in and say somebody's sick, and the tetracycline, actually the pharmacist delivered it to the house one time because Dad was at work. We only had one car. We got another car when you were sick, but he delivered it to the house, and he looked at you in the bassinet, and he says, he's wheezing. And I said, yes, he sure is.
Do you remember any of that?
No. No,
But then he had to have a tonsillectomy because he kept getting ear infections, and the doctor would kind of open up, he'd lance the ear and a pus would come out and tonsillitis, and he decided, well, he should have a tonsillectomy, but not an adenoidectomy. And now this is the 4th time back to the hospital, and he's bigger than both of us at this point. He's probably 18 months old or so. And he screamed and yelled and fought that nurse when she tried to weigh him so bad. She knew that he was somewhere between 13 and 26 pounds. He remembered that. He remembered being there before him.
You remembered at the time, Mark.
I remember once them trying to give me a shot, and it took 3 nurses and mom to hold me down, but I thought it was older.
That was a different doctor. That was a different doctor. And I asked that doctor why you always had to have a shot when you were sick. And he said, because can you guarantee that you're not going to give him every dose of that penicillin by mouth? And I said, I've never missed a dose yet. And we got a different doctor then. That was Dr. Thathan.
But besides that, I was perfectly healthy, big boy. You know, we lived in Saline, and we lived on the end of a road at the end of the subdivision, and I had Farmer Brown's field to run in, to hang out in. Occasionally we'd get a bull that got loose, and we'd find horses in the backyard with, you know, people trying to, you know, get the bull back. I kind of remember that, and I do remember fighting with a kid in the neighborhood over smudge pots, maybe.
Yeah.
I was probably 4 or 5 by then.
It was like 2 cats fighting in the middle of the road over that boy that wanted to take Mark's smudge pot. And the smudge pot was actually to light up the end of the street so people didn't go into the ditch at the end.
And his
What is a smudge pot?
father was the football coach? Or?
Yeah, both those boys, the Corona and Mark were just at least a year bigger than average child.
But Matthew, smudge pot.
Mark says his young pal there, I don't know if they were pals at the time, but he came down and he wanted the smudge pot. You know, these are those little round pots with a wicker end, you know, which the highway department would put out rather than cones. They'd use these smudge pots.
I don't think I've ever seen one before.
And I'll tell you, that other kid wasn't going to get it, because I looked out the window and here Mark had him in a hammerlock and bunching away, and I don't think you ever had another fight with him, did you, Mark?
No, but a smudge pot is when they used to. Now they have blinkers with integrated batteries, right? That would yellow bulb on top. This was 1966, so they didn't have batteries back then.
Right.
Okay, so is it like this little circular or spherical thing I'm looking at? Okay.
A globe, a little globe, black, with a wicker that they lit.
I think Mark established himself in the neighborhood, so he got along fine with the other kids. They didn't test his mettle much. But Mark was mentioning the field that he'd go play in behind houses that had just been completed in construction. And he was always stepping on something, weren't you, Mark?
Well, we used to go to Farmer Brown sold 100 acres, and they put up all these houses really quick. Over the winter, guys showed up in snowmobiles to go out and survey and lay it out. And I remember riding on the snowmobiles with these guys.
Every day with them.
And I was like their little mascot. And Mom just said, go on, right. And so then they put these houses up, and they put them up pretty fast. And as they were being constructed, Steve and I used to go out and play in them. And Dad said, stay out of those houses. Stay out of those houses, right? And I was out there by myself one time, and I decided, I was going to drag this 2x8, this long 2x8 somewhere, but on the end of it, there was a big nail sticking out of it. And I dropped that thing, and it went right through the top of my foot and nailed me down to the floor, the wooden floor. And so
we didn't know where he was. And how did you get help?
I don't know. I think some nice man was nearby and heard me screaming, and he came and put his foot on my foot and pulled it out and
carried you home.
Yeah. But I think Steve and I got caught there one time by Dad, and we were out in the carport, and my dad said, Steve, told you not to go out there, and you went out there. I'm going to have to spank you. Okay. Whap, 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 little attention getters. And then he looked at me and said, Mark, what do you think your punishment should be? And I said, spanking. And Dad gave me one good one, and I said, that didn't hurt. And then he proceeded to give me a few more. Okay, I'm sorry.
So Mark went through this stage of getting nails in his feet. He got a chisel in his foot. And one time he thought he had a needle in his foot, and we had to take him in to get him x-rayed. Probably all within a year and a half. These 3 incidents of nails and chisels and needles, and he grew out of it.
No tetanus?
Oh,
No, I got a chisel on my toe, I think. I dropped the chisel.
Upstairs, and you said you had a chisel.
Oh, it's the fizzle, the shizzle. I dropped the chisel, and it really gashed open my foot. But besides that, Mom and Dad let me do whatever I wanted.
And he did it plenty.
But
How many
who's your big friend, Mark?
How many years are in between you and Aunt Therese?
3. I was born in 63, and she's probably 59. September, 3-ish. There was a miscarriage in between Therese and I. But I had a girlfriend back then, Robin Tripp, and she could talk a lot. She was well in advance. I was like Forrest Gump, and she was Jenny. I went to kindergarten, was my last year in Saline before we moved to East Lansing. That was about 1969, and I do remember watching Captain Kangaroo in the morning before kindergarten, and Robin Tripp would come down and walk to school with me. I think Mom and Dad let us walk to school in kindergarten. It was maybe a mile away. And Robin was just, she talked the whole time, and I thought she was just great. I didn't know that,
When they were about 2 and a half, when Robin's mother and Robin would come to visit, Robin would chatter at Mark, and Mark didn't talk hardly at all. And she would chatter so much that finally he'd just haul off and whop her. And then when he got his tonsillectomy and he could hear her, he all of a sudden started talking himself.
Oh. It was a sore throat problem.
You couldn't hear.
I don't really remember not hearing, but the school I went to, Matthew, Saline at that time was like a little bedroom farm community, a lot of farmers. And in kindergarten, we didn't have show and tell. We had farm days where everybody brought in their farm animal or their tractor, right? It was a different place than it is today. And that's one of the things I remember about that school. I don't remember any of my teachers or anything, but I do remember that those farm days were fun, like horses and cows and all pigs, just all out in the parking lot.
Do you remember once when you had a caterpillar and you wanted to show it to the little neighbor girl?
Barely. I don't even know the circumstances. I think I had a caterpillar and it was a little brown fuzzy one, and I had it in my hand and I showed it to Susie or somebody like that. Hey, look at my caterpillar. And she picked it up and ate it like it was chocolate. But
So
I don't have that many memories of Saline. I do remember that it was, it was 1969. Some older kid in the neighborhood was singing Jim Morrison, "Come On Baby, Light My Fire," and that's. But besides that, they're just little flashes of memories.
See, it wasn't a big deal that the Detroit Tigers won the World Series to Mark, but it was to Paul.
Wow, I remember that.
What's your memory moving to East Lansing?
Well, I was in first grade when we moved. I remember the night we moved in, the woman next door came over and pretended like she wanted to borrow a cup of sugar, but she just wanted to be nosy and introduce herself. And there was 3 boys that lived next door to us.
And that was Kay Carroll.
Yeah. And Steve and Paul and I shared a bedroom. We had a bunk bed and then another twin bed on the side in one bedroom. In first grade, I remember going to school and feeling like I was a little behind.
Mark, you only went to Saline for a week and then we moved.
For first grade.
Yes.
Yep. So.
And you were behind, and what did they do with you? They sent you to the reading specialist or speech specialist?
Really?
Yes, because you didn't know your ABCs and you didn't know anything about reading, and you were already in the first grade, and they didn't believe in teaching the ABCs in kindergarten in Saline. And the reading teacher sent him back and said, "There's nothing wrong with him. Nobody has ever taught him."
Nice, good for her. So
Schooling.
I do remember we had neighbors who, one of them was a professor at Michigan State, and he had an Austrian wife, and I was friends with Daniel, who was my age, and they lived in a tri-level, and down in the basement, we went down in the bed. Richard Lawrence was a photographer, so he had Playboys that we looked at, and then Daniel said, "Oh, if you like that, come on down here." And I went down to the basement, and there's this big 4x6 charcoal drawing of his mom, nude.
Yeah.
And I came home, it was the summer, and I think we were all eating lunch together or dinner together, and I was eating really fast, and Grandpa said, "Why are you eating so fast?" And all I could say was,
That's true. You have to get back to those magazines.
And then those neighbors went to Russia for Dick's sabbatical, and we got new neighbors, and it was 4 cute little French-speaking girls from Montreal, Canada. And it was Mimi and Beatrice and Jacette and Jacqueline. And Jacqueline would say, "I love you." Oh, I love you. Oh, that's so nice. But those neighbors were kind of cool. I do remember that in the evenings, we used to go out jogging with them, their whole family and our whole family, and we'd do, 2 blocks, 2 blocks, 2 blocks, 2 blocks back home, like a mile jog quite frequently. I liked that.
Yes.
We did too.
Oh, you all went together?
Beg your pardon?
You all went together on the jog? It's like a big family jog?
Yeah, like a
Yes.
12-minute jog or whatever, 12-minute mile, just gotta keep moving.
He was an orthopedist.
Yeah. Yeah, we grew up in a neighborhood that had a lot of girls in it. We had the Gliozo girls in back of us, the Gustafson girls to the east, and then
Mary Hennigan.
yeah, there was a lot of girls in our neighborhood. That was all right.
And that kitty corner people, I can't think of their names. Keverans.
Hevrons, yes. That was nice.
And then you got a tractor.
I did. I had, I bet I was in 7th grade, maybe, Dad? 6th grade?
I was wondering how old you were when that happened.
I started mowing lawns and using Dad's lawn boy. And then after a while, I picked up a couple more, and then the money was coming in, and Dad and I went out and bought a John Deere tractor. And I think I ended up with it sometimes 20 lawns, including covering for some of my friends who were on vacation. And I mowed quite a few lawns on that thing. That last.
You had a trailer on that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that lasted long, maybe 2 summers but it was good. The cash flow was wonderful.
Was that a good experience?
Yeah, I think so. I still hear from my friends from the neighborhood that they still remember when I showed up with that green John Deere. They're like, "Whoa, this guy's serious."
Then you learned to ride the giraffe.
I rode the unicycles, yep. I didn't really like the giraffe because there was a lot of low-hanging trees on the sidewalk, and occasionally I'd get worms and rashes from it going underneath the trees. And when you fell off of it, it was a long way down. I didn't really like that.
Oh, I didn't know you fell.
Yeah, you just got to make sure to bend your knees when you fall. Don't lay on stiff leg. Don't lock your knees. That makes it worse.
And don't push your hands out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Matt, when Mark was growing up, he had a very strong work ethic. And he maintained that. And he was muscular, and he was strong, and he did a lot of work. And of course I encouraged that.
Was that something you picked up from somewhere, or he was just kind of naturally that way, or why do you think that was?
Well, I think the first time I ever did a good solid day's work, I remember I was in the garage, and I decided the garage needed cleaning and organizing. So I moved everything in that garage and swept and organized. And I think I remember being in the garage, and it was like 1974. And I remember on the radio that there was a ceasefire in Vietnam when I was in the garage that day. I just listened to the radio all day, and I think when Dad came home, he he looked at the garage and he was pretty impressed. He said, that looks pretty good. But Steve couldn't do yard work because he was allergic to bees, so I had to mow the lawn. And Paul had asthma, so I had to mow the lawn. But you know, that wasn't too much work. I enjoyed it.
Did you swim?
I swam at the club. Mom used to drop us off every morning at 7 a.m. for swim practice. Swim until 9, and then after 9 until about 1, a little after lunch, Mom would come back from work or school or whatever and pick us all up. And I like to swim, but you know, with my lung condition, I just couldn't breathe that well. I couldn't breathe very well when I did the butterfly. It just gassed me.
Yeah.
Both.
Have you ever butterflied, Matthew? It's incredibly strenuous.
Yep. The one year I did swim team, they made me do it, and I was like, this is not. No, I'm putting in medium to low effort into this, and this is not the stroke for me. What's the one I get to lay on my back so I can breathe? Oh, backstroke. Yes, yeah. Let me. That's the one I want.
Yeah.
Dad's like, oh, you chose that because of me, huh? That was my stroke. I was like, no. I just want to be able to breathe.
Or the side stroke, but they just don't race the side stroke.
No, they sure don't.
That was my favorite.
But I remember dinners. We used to watch the CBS Evening News and watch the Vietnam War, you know, the killed in action, wounded in action tallies. We seemed to watch that either while we were eating dinner or right before or right after. It seemed to be a regular thing. I remember Steve and I used to go to the Denny's Schwinn shop and dumpster dive, and we'd pull all sorts of used bike parts out, including inner tubes. So one day we collected a whole bunch of inner tubes and we tied them all together. And Steve and I went in the backyard and we decided we were going to jump out of the trees and bungee. Right?
Bungee.
This is a great idea.
Yeah. I
It
remember.
worked too, didn't it?
Yeah, it did until it snapped and whacked me on the head with one of those nipples. Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. Steve always used to kind of be amazed at me, my tree climbing. I was a little bit of a daredevil. I remember I went streaking one time with Daniel next door. There was a it was popular in those days, and we lived in the college town, and there was even a song on the radio about streaking, The Streak. And Daniel and I think they had an appliance box, like a dishwasher box in the driveway, and Daniel and I were playing in it, and he said, let's go streaking. And I went out and went streaking with Daniel. We'd run around, go back and giggle, and later on that night, Dad comes home from work, and somehow he found out that I was streaking. And he says, come on, I'll take you out streaking. Let's go. I'll just watch you. You know, no, I don't want to streak. I won't streak anymore.
So what did you do when Paul was streaking?
So Paul and his friends were whispering, and I didn't have anything to do. And so I was, they kind of ran off somewhere, and I thought, they're acting kind of strange. Let me follow them. I got on Mom's bike, and Mom's bike had a nice basket on the front. I followed them up a couple blocks, and there was a city park with the woods and stuff. And I get there, I could see them from the distance they were going in. And as I got into the park on the path into the woods, I looked down.
I was going to say, I just called him.
Hey, Kim. I remember picking up the underwear and picking up all of their clothes and putting it in the basket. And they saw me do that, and I started riding away, and there a bunch of naked boys are running after me, crying and crying and crying. And so I'd throw out a piece of underwear every 20 yards or a piece of t-shirt, throw them out like that, and giggle the whole way.
So what
Big
what
brother,
age
huh?
that's for you when you're streaking?
Oh, I think I was probably in 4th or 5th grade. I was kind of young.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Matt, this happened on campus, on the MSU campus, quite a bit. And the one who got most of the press, one of the professors, he was an econ professor.
Lash,
And,
LaRue.
No, well, he was one. There was another one too, more to something.
Mordecai.
And the girls, a couple girls would streak the, while he was teaching class. They just streak right through the classroom, in one door, out the other.
Bring him roses.
That's so weird to think about. Like,
And they would streak across the field at the football games.
yeah, I can like vaguely remember it sort of happening a few times in like the early '90s. It must have just been like a holdover from that. But like thinking about that happening today, it's just like that's weird. It's like just as sad that people did for like 5-10 years and it stopped.
And then they went to mooning.
I think it lasted mainly, a year or 2 years at the most, and then kind of died out.
Yeah.
And then,
Weird. All right.
and then Mark's now in high school. What's going on, Mark?
Well, Mark's checking. He doesn't want to miss anything.
Oh, well, when I was in high school, Steve and Teresa had moved out of the house by then, pretty much. And so it was Paul and I. Paul and I were kind of left there, and our school started at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. it started. And so Paul and I used to get up at 6. We weren't allowed to take showers in the house, only the night before. So we'd go down and wash our hair in the tub, and we'd make our breakfast, and we'd eat, and we'd go to school, ride our bikes to school most of the time. One morning, Paul and I got into a good old fight over some cereal. I think we didn't really get sugar cereal, but somehow Mom bought us some sugar cereal, and I wanted 3 bowls, and Paul thought that was excessive. And we had a good throwdown, and grandmother had to get up and say, "What's going on out here, you guys?"
You can see how unusual it was that they should have sugar cereal.
No, that was the exact same scenario, except for no fighting with me and my sister. But whenever there was like Fruity Pebbles or something like that, it was just the tragedy of the commons, where it was just like, well, I know she's gonna eat a lot of it, so I just need to eat as much as possible. We just finished the whole thing in like one sitting, because that's all. Couldn't trust each other.
And have a sore roof of your mouth.
Yeah, Captain Crunch. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, didn't Steve pound on you quite a bit?
Well, Steve used to bring home friends for me to pound on them. I bet you can't beat my brother in wrestling. And I had to fight Dave Bath and Kurt and all those guys. But Steve, I don't really remember him beating me up that much, but I do remember he came home from the service on a visit one time, and we got into it out in front, and I think I threw him off the porch and into the bushes after a good butt whooping. And after that, Steve and I just got along really well.
Yeah, well, I remember, Steve would throw a punch every now and then, not maliciously, but he was showing his dominance.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept warning Steve. I said, Mark's going to grow up one of these days. You better watch out. And I never knew you took action afterwards. That for the first time now, I'm hearing that you threw him off the porch.
Uh,
How did
yeah.
you get along with Therese?
I got along really well with Therese, except, Therese was, she was a little more mature and she had a whole different friend group and she drove earlier than me. I think we got along all right, but
And Paul?
loved Paul. And Paul and I always got along well.
So
Do you remember Steve opening his shirt and saying belly?
That was when I was younger. I used to love to just go, something about a warm belly. I just wanted to put my cheek up against it and hug it. I just loved bellies.
Ben.
Still do.
So was it weird when because basically my dad and Aunt Therese basically kind of left at the same time, right? And then all of a sudden it's just you and Uncle Paul. Was that like a very weird shift?
No, it didn't. Yeah, it was a little lonesome, but we had our own stuff to do, and we got along. And Mom and Dad were getting a little more mellow in those days. They weren't quite as strict as they probably were with Teresa and Steve, but we were well behaved, mostly. So we got a little bit of a longer leash, but yeah, we didn't. We used to always have a good family dinner, right? This doesn't happen today where everybody sits down and we all eat, right? And Grandma and Grandpa, we used to eat so fast and get up and leave all the dishes and everything. And Grandma and Grandpa wanted to kind of extend it, so they made us clear the table. Okay, we'll clear the table. Load the dishwasher. They kept adding on because we got faster and faster and faster. Say the rosary, right? Oh, let's say the rosary. Okay. You know what? We should have coffee after dinner. So we learned to get up and turn the tea kettle on halfway through dinner so we could make the instant coffee. And I decided that enough was enough. They were piling on. They just wanted to tie us down. And so one day instead of 1 teaspoon of Sanka, I put 6 of them in. And I gave it to Mom and Dad, and Dad sipped it and said, "Oh, that's very good. Thank you, Mom." Yeah, so we used to have 6 of us at the table, regular dinners, and then I think when Paul and I were in high school, I think we were both pretty busy with after-school sports and whatnot, and we had fewer family dinners, but we still made a pretty good go of it.
What sports did you play?
Well, my freshman year, I played football, and Grandma did not want me to play football, and I wanted to play football, and all my friends were playing football, so Grandpa caved and let me play football, and he took me out and bought me some nice kangaroo leather Adidas. And I loved playing football, but I got sick. That's a rough sport. About 3/4 of the way through the season, I had bronchitis and I just couldn't play anymore. So that was kind of it. When it came time for sophomore year football, they practiced in August and it was hot and it was dirty and you'd get banged up. And I said, and I was small. I didn't go through puberty until I was practically a senior, right? Probably senior in high school. So I didn't have a size advantage anymore. I swam, I dove. And then freshman year, I also ran track. I did pole vault, but only swimming for sophomore year on. I used to like to dive.
Mark, you told me a story that toward the end of the season, you always wanted to play quarterback, and there were 2 other quarterbacks that got all the time, and toward the end of one game, the coach said, "Hey, Lyon, you go on in. I don't want these other guys to get injured." And that kind of gave you a lot to think about.
They put me in and I fumbled the snap and it was 3 downs and out, and that was my only chance. It was my only chance to show off at quarterback, and we went probably -5 yards with me in there, and I said,
Yeah. Well, I think Dr. Dave Howe examined your knees one time too and advised you not to play football because the tendons or whatever.
Well, what did your mother know, right? Your mother said, don't play football.
yeah. I had some loose ligaments, or it wasn't a very stable knee, but never injured them.
How'd you get into diving?
Treese was a diver before me, and I kind of wanted to. It looked fun, and I was pretty good at it. I was a gymnast before when I was younger, and I was smaller. And
You didn't have to work out as hard.
yeah, you didn't have to work out as hard. I mean, I swam summers with the club still. I was still a swimmer, but I liked to dive. And then some of the girls at my school were being instructed by the MSU diving coach for $5 a lesson for an hour or more. And so all of a sudden I'm hanging out at the men's IM from probably 9th grade on, diving with the MSU diving team, which was kind of nice.
And you got some good friends from that.
Yeah, yep. Mike Brown and
Who was my classmate in medical school.
Oh,
I dove my freshman year at MSU, at least the first trimester, until I had a 0.87 grade point, and I said I need to really study more. And I said, well, that's enough of that.
so Grandma, Grandpa, do you remember, speaking of friends, do you remember Uncle Mark's core friend group who'd come over, or who was he hanging out with?
Who was it, Mark?
No, he asked you.
I'm not, Daniel.
Next door neighbor Daniel, Mike Belassis up the street, the neighborhood kind of kids. But when I got into high school, I started hanging out with Kevin Rubenstein, who lived down the street, and he was a little.
You're still hanging out with him.
Yeah. He was a little bit of a partier, but friends didn't normally come over to our house. I don't know why. It was just, we used to run we're on the streets. We didn't hang out, at anyone's house in those days. It was more, let's go over to MSU and, sleep on the pole vault pit tonight, or, let's go hang out on the parking ramp. Let's do something. Let's try to be mischievous.
Let's sneak into the IM pool. Let's go see what girls are at the sports camp.
Yeah, and MSU used to have a women's IM and a men's IM, and I had a little black friend named Vance, and he was fun, but you had to be careful because you might get arrested with him. But at the women's IM, they had a pool that was facing the river. They had windows, and then they had a fenced-in area outside the pool, and they had certain pool hours where only women could swim, but they could go out on the sun deck and suntan. And Vance showed me one day, if you climb up this tree and sit on this limb with me, you can see all the women nude sunbathing out there. Whoa! So we'd hang out right on the edge of the Red Cedar River on a tree limb, sitting up there, for an hour watching the nudies.
And then I found out about it, and I didn't sunbathe there anymore.
So my friends, didn't come around. It wasn't because I didn't have friends, and it wasn't because I was at their house all the time. It was because we kind of ran the streets more than anything.
Yes. Yeah, I wonder if Patrick and James are going to be the same way versus me growing up where everything was so spread out. It was basically if we were hanging out with a friend, it was at somebody's house and you were spending the night because it was like, you know, a 20-minute drive. So
One of
it'll be
those
interesting.
scheduled play dates, right?
Yeah, pretty much all the way through senior year of high school, always scheduled play dates.
Their whole life was a play date with all the neighbor kids.
It was a good neighborhood for kids.
Yeah. I did have a friend that came over quite a bit, and her name was Kathy Hacker. She was my girlfriend from freshman year through senior year, practically sophomore year maybe. And she came over to the house one day when Paul and Dad were somewhere else, and we got in bed and we were getting busy, and all of a sudden Dad and Paul came home.
I came home, yeah.
So I didn't have friends over anymore after that.
So after my dad and Aunt Therese moved out, did one of you guys get the basement bedroom? This has been a topic on the previous episodes.
That was my bedroom. That was my bedroom in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, but I could not. Steve had always told me that he used to sneak out through that basement window. Yeah. But I have no idea how he could get out of that basement window. I looked at it. I never tried because I just looked at it and said, either I'm going to injure myself or get stuck or my head is too big. Steve had a smaller head.
He blamed you guys, either you or Uncle Paul, on ruining the whole, like that's how Grandpa figured it out or something like that. Someone put it in backwards.
When we went to sell the house, we found the window wasn't shut tightly.
So it wasn't. I've confronted everybody so far. It wasn't Aunt Therese. It wasn't you. We're to confront Uncle Paul. It's probably not going to be him. Really, in the end, it was just my dad.
Probably left open from when he snuck out. He was the only one.
Yeah, Mr. Dad. He says he went through it, but hard to believe.
Those basement windows aren't very big.
You were down there.
Mark, you had another girlfriend there, Rose? Martha?
Martha was Greg's girlfriend, but Kathy wouldn't let me be friends with Martha that well. No.
Oh. Okay.
Marianne Gerard and Martha DeRose. I used to maybe make out with them once in a while on the side, but that was it.
Marianne Gerard used to call in the middle of the night. Many, many times that phone rang in the middle of the night, and it was Marianne Gerard calling.
Really? Huh.
For Mark. It was when Grandma and Grandpa were not very well, and I'd have to answer the phone in the middle of the night to be sure that they were okay. Marianne Gerard was calling.
Oh, man. Why didn't you let me know? Could have capitalized on that. When I was younger, like in high school, I used to help Dad a lot, working with the duplexes, the rental duplexes, right? We used to go and paint and get them ready to be, rented again in the fall. He had a duplex that it seems like we painted it like every year. And I told Dad, I said, didn't we just paint this last year? Yeah, Mark. You paint and then you paint and you paint and then you die. What? That was Dad saying. Do you remember that, Dad?
Yeah, well, Paul remembers that too. I hear that.
You notice that we've quit here.
Yeah. I think Mom was working on her master's degree or medical school, master's degree still when I was in high school. So she was quite busy. She brought me into her lab one time which was in an old Giltner Hall, the physics hall, I think. And she was doing research on the flow of fluids through veins or
Collapsible tubes.
whatever. And she used to go and harvest jugular veins out of horses over at the vet school and hook them up, and she'd pump silicone through these things, and then she'd take a look at how they're reacting and whatever. And she brought me into the lab one time, and somehow I knocked over felt like it was a gallon of silicone all over the floor in her lab. And every time we went there, got paper towels. Every time we it felt like we were falling all over. It was a mess. I felt bad about that.
With silicone, he had silicone all over his pants. He slipped and sat right down in it.
So did you go straight to Michigan State after high school?
I did. I went. I started MSU in '81, and I think I made it. I flunked almost every calculus class I took, and then I just wouldn't quit, and I kept taking it again, and it always just seemed like I get that. I don't have to study that. I got it. And then they pass out the test. I'm like, doggone it. I didn't study very well, and I was partying, and it took me I hung on for about 2 years, and I bet I had 2/3 of a year of credit at that point. And I think Mom and Dad finally said, Mark, this isn't working. We're not going to pay for this anymore. And then I said, okay. And I wanted to hang out. And they said, if you're going to stay home, maybe you should work and kind of pay rent. And I said, okay, I'll pay rent. And then after a couple months of not paying rent, Dad evicted me and said, you gotta go. You're going out, you're partying, you're smoking and drinking, and you're just that doesn't work in this house. So I moved out, and Uncle Steve got me a job at the hospital. He was working at the hospital. Grandma went and helped me find an apartment to rent. They wouldn't rent it to me. She had to co-sign for it. It was like $200 a month. It was a duplex right downtown, right in the worst area of town. Whenever there was any dead baby found in the garbage, it was within a couple blocks of my house.
But it was the best apartment we could find for you.
I know that.
We looked at a bunch of them, and they were just traps.
Yeah. And so I lived there for a few years, and I worked at the hospital, and then I became full-time at the hospital. And the hospital said that they had the tuition assistance program. They paid my tuition. So I started picking up classes. I worked full-time, and I picked up classes at LCC. I remember going to LCC, and there was a guy from housekeeping at the hospital that was, we took economics. I decided I was going to become a business major. And we took the first test, and they passed it back, and I got an 88. He passed it to me, and it had a big 88 on it, so I left it on. I scooted it over so Tim could see it. And then Tim got his paper, and he got a 98. And I said, oh, this is war, right? And after that, I decided, Tim and I kept taking all of our business classes together. We worked at the hospital during the day and took business classes. I lived in 4 or 5 houses over the next 5 years in the same block, right by the Capitol, right by LCC. And pretty soon I finished up with I couldn't take any more credits that would transfer into MSU. It transferred in as a junior. And MSU, the assistant dean, I said, here's my grades, let me in. She said, yeah, but we saw what you did before you left, Mark. We'll take you back, but anything lower than a 3-point, and you're expelled. You just can't come back. And so at that point, I couldn't work full time at the hospital anymore, and I'd straightened up enough. I was a vegetarian, and I didn't drink for like 6 years, and I was kind of straight and narrow. And I moved home with Mom and Dad, and helped them get their house on Cahill ready to sell, and then we moved in and kind of helped get set up, and they gave me a bedroom, and I lived with them for about 3 years. Worked every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night at the hospital, and finished up MSU in 3 years, and it was wonderful living with my parents again. We, you know.
And it was wonderful having you.
It really was.
Mark, one of the things that you did that made me the proudest was when your little black friend died and you went to his funeral down in Detroit, and you got up and you spoke at his funeral about what a good friend he had been to you.
Yep, I had a friend named Sandy, and he came up from the South because he didn't have a father, and I think his mother ran off, and he lived with his cousins in Detroit. And then when crack got really hot in Detroit and people were getting killed, he moved to Lansing, and he worked at the hospital with me. And he was a very quiet guy, and he developed AIDS, and he died. He got admitted, and he died within, 4 or 5 weeks of AIDS. And at the hospital, the hospital gave us a bus, and they took the staff to Detroit to this funeral parlor. It was purple velvet all over the walls, and it had this big fat guy on the organ, just a closer walk with me, and they asked us if we wanted to stand up and say a word about him, and I stood up, and I got about halfway through, and I was going strong, and then I turned into a blubbering idiot, and everybody came up and walked me back to my seat. I could barely walk, and I loved Sandy. He was a very simple guy, but he was a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
He was good to you.
Yes.
We lived happily ever after, eh, Mark?
Yeah.
Yes.
What years were you? Did you move back in to Cahill?
So Cahill, I moved back just to get him moved into Okemos. I don't even think I moved into Cahill. I think I got it ready, but right as soon as we moved to Okemos, I moved in. That would have been, I graduated from MSU in 93. So maybe, did you move in 90 or 89?
You're about 26, weren't you?
Yeah. I think you moved into your house in about 1990.
We moved here in 93.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was a lot.
Oh.
Because I remember Cahill.
Oh, actually, I did live with you on Cahill. I did live in my old bedroom on Cahill when I was going to MSU.
That's right.
That's right. Okay. So, yeah. So I lived there from probably 90 to 94.
Yeah. Well, 93 and then here.
Yeah. Did I live with you that long? Huh. Seems like it just a couple of years, but
Not long enough.
yeah.
You know, when you were gone living in Lansing, your cousin April lived with us.
Missed it. Yeah, we had.
That's Uncle Joe's daughter.
Yes, I met her at
At the
yeah.
commemoration. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So I graduated from MSU. I graduated with MSU after 12 years from the time I started. And
Breaking.
yeah, and then I at that point my early adulthood, from 93 I graduated. Probably moved to Saline to live to work for Ford in 94.
But you stayed with us. You stayed with us while you worked at Scientific Instruments.
Yes, I worked. I had a short job after I came out of MSU. We were kind of coming out of a recession, and there weren't any jobs. And I got trained on this job for about 6 months, and then Ford called, and I had to tell them that I was leaving. That was a hard thing to do after they kind of spent time on training me.
But you straightened them out.
Okay.
You fixed their crib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I
Well, back
moved.
to MSU, Mark, weren't you president of their chapter?
I was the I was the president of the Business Honor Society because Matthew, I only got one. When they told me I couldn't get less than a 3 point, otherwise I was expelled. I didn't know how hard I had to study, and so I think I only had one 3.5 my junior and senior year, and I made the dean's list. And then because I was probably one of the high GPAs, they invited me to become president of the Beta Gamma Sigma Business Honor Society. And when I graduated, they asked me to give a kind of a canned speech to the business honor students, which was kind of fun.
That's cool. So that must have been cool to see then. See Uncle Mark start rocky right out of high school, 0.87, and then just kind of turn it all around into the successful young man he is today. That's for you and grandma and grandpa.
We're very proud of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So I think
and the Jumps loved him. The Jumps just loved him, didn't they?
I can't hardly remember. I think so.
They were neighbors, and
We're going back to when I was 5 again.
well, but they never stopped loving you.
Yeah. That was our babysitter's family. So then when I moved into Ford, in 94, I started at Ford and I got married to Kim in 98, right? I dated her for about 2 or 3 years, and then we got married in 98. And, when I was working in Saline, I'd come home occasionally and visit, but pretty much I was, down here. And when I got married to Kim, we lived for a little while in Dearborn Heights in Kim's old place. And then we moved, bought this house in 1998. And then Alexa was born in 2002. And when Alexa was born, Kim just adored my parents. So she always made me come home to my parents. What are we doing this weekend? Nothing. Let's go see your parents. Okay. We'd bring Alexa and we'd go visit mom and dad on a Saturday. We'd get there. We'd have dinner. We'd watch Britcoms. Grandma would teach Alexa how to knit. We'd have a fire. We'd sleep in our own bed, my old bedroom. I'd get up in the morning. We'd go to mass. We'd get coffee afterwards, and we'd go home. I think it was probably at least once a month that we visited you for years.
That wasn't that different from your mom and dad and you and the monkeys sleeping on the bed, Matthew.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they'd come up and visit you a lot?
Oh, your mom told Teresa, I just love visiting. I just love visiting your parents.
Oh, I want to show you this.
Uh-oh. Is this
found
good or
this.
bad?
Oh, this is very, very, very good. If I can find it quick enough.
All right, good.
So that kind of, it's interesting to hear that you're living at Grandma and Grandpa's, because now I'm remembering some like weight equipment maybe in the basement. That must have been yours, Uncle Mark.
Were
Like
there
dumbbells?
Were they like, no, Grandpa had dumbbells. I remember domed ones.
Grandpa had a rowing machine and he had a bike, a exercise bike.
See how well you can see this.
I can see it.
Yes.
I can see it.
It's kind of blurry, but yeah, there's Uncle Mark right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I'll put this in, but this is a good.
Who's in front?
photo.
That's your mom in front?
Yep,
Lying
mom's in
down.
front. Baby me. This says Thanksgiving '87.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look how skinny her face is.
Yep.
Nice, nice. I like that, Matthew.
Yeah, I think this might be, this is kind of where everybody has stopped, is basically where they met their spouse. And so do you have anything else you want to talk about, Mark?
Well, yeah. So when just real quick, when we used to visit Grandma and Grandpa, I remember Grandma always had something for us to do. We'd go visit a Dutch painter named von Frankenhuizen, who had a nice property and had a painting lab and was a illustrator for children's books. And we'd go out there a couple times. Grandpa used to take us to the Mac, to go swimming.
Mac is the best.
Matthew, I even took my parents on vacation with me twice. I took my parents to Germany in 2014. Let me think. And in 2019. We took them over to Germany, and we had the best time going on vacation together.
We did. Mark, did you ever visit the farms when you were growing up? The farms at MSU?
Yeah, we used to go visit the farms that we could show the digestion of a cow's stomach with a porthole in it. You could reach in, pull the stuff out. The horses and the pig. Oh, Alexa even pulled a horse's tooth one time when Grandma and Grandpa took her to the horse farm. There was a veterinarian dentist there, and they had this horse's mouth propped open, and she was pulling the molars out, and she allowed Alexa to grab in there with pliers and pull out this monstrous tooth. I remember. We always had a lot of fun around East Lansing.
Yeah.
There was always someplace to go on your days off, wasn't there? Impression 5 and the farms and we visited the canoe rental, but Paul fell in through the ice. You remember that?
No.
No, he did.
Yeah, so that was kind of it. Grandma and Grandpa took Alexa up to the Grand Hotel in 2010, and Grandma was at doing medical continuing education, and Grandpa and Alexa hung out together. Grandpa even rode a horse with Alexa, and she showed me a picture of that the other day, and Grandpa would let Alexa go down to the lobby to get the newspaper in the morning, and she kind of had the run of the Grand Hotel.
It looks like you got a photo of the Grand Hotel behind you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was.
We missed you.
Oh, yeah.
Up.
Your anniversary or something? Yeah.
Yes, our 50th, I think it was.
Somehow, I think that your mom and dad decided that you weren't coming.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it was mom and dad. It was your mom and dad's anniversary or something. I don't know.
Also, that's what they told us. But we missed you.
Yeah. What we're going to try to do, Matt, when you get a picture of you and a picture of Michelle about that age when, age specific, to that time we had that picture taken of our 50th, and get you down in the corner somehow.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember what year it was?
Well, it was our 50th, and we were married in 1958, so it must have been 1998. Would that be 50? No.
2008, because I think I saw
208.
Yeah.
2008.
College.
Yeah. Sorry to bring that up, Matthew. I'm sorry.
Oh, I think, was it during the summer?
Yes, it would have been during the
Yeah,
summer.
I was in Indiana that summer, so that's probably why.
Doing what?
I was at Terre Haute, Indiana at Pfizer, doing an internship there.
I
about
didn't realize that.
Or I was in Kalamazoo, one of the two, or maybe Kalamazoo. Yeah,
working for John.
yeah, same
Uncle
place.
John?
Well, yeah, he was down in Terre Haute, and then Kalamazoo, I was working for someone who used to work for him there.
That was a good one. I forgot that you did that.
Yep.
Made you marketable when you got out of college.
But it was your research that did it, wasn't it? Made you
Yeah.
marketable?
Well, the internships definitely helped too. So.
So as the years went on and Alexa got older and did more sports, we visited Grandma and Grandpa a lot less. And, you know, just like that, their hair turned gray and Grandpa grew a beard, and it's just went by so fast.
Yeah,
Important lessons.
my beard is strictly the coronavirus beard.
There's like a second and third wave. You're going to be looking like Rip Van Winkle over there. No shaving. Girl till it's over.
I told Lex after our last visit, I said, I don't like Grandpa's beard. Do you like it? And both Lex says, I like it.
Yeah, everybody likes it.
Kim wants
Awesome.
it to be trimmed a little bit more like Matthew's.
This is not trimmed. This is.
Yeah.
I shave it with all the way down to stubble, and then just let it grow for 3 weeks, and then it gets out of control, and I repeat. Yeah.
I'm about ready. I've done it 3 times. So it's about time again.
Guess who cuts his hair?
You do.
Yeah.
Did a nice job.
Mm-hmm.
And not awful, but bearable.
So important lessons
Yes.
Yeah.
for Mom. She told me one time, Mom did a lot of stuff. She did, you know, she was a seamstress. She knew everything about gardening. She knew this, you know, she was crafty. She was a painter. She told me one time that your interests change over life. Over the course of your life, your interests will change. Some things that you felt were important when you were younger aren't important to you anymore. And she said if you set a goal, if you want to do something, the closer you get to achieving that goal, the less attractive that goal becomes. And so what do you do when you get close to achieving your goal and it's less attractive? You set a new goal.
Working for you? It works?
Yeah, some things that are sometimes you can come back to things that were important before, right? You don't ever have to just put them aside. She says she keeps on working a little each day. If you've seen her texts, so she goes out and picks up 3 sticks and goes and puts them on a pile, and then she writes about it and she takes a rest. But steady progress. Steady progress is important. And one of the things that she told me, an important lesson she told me, is empathetic listening. And she knew this from medical school, that sometimes, you know, when somebody wants to cry on your shoulder, you never tell them, oh, I know how it feels, because you don't know how it feels. Sometimes you just got to let somebody cry on your shoulder and say, I'm so sorry. That must feel terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 3 things from Grandma. And for Dad, you paint, and you die, right?
I'm going to write that on my tombstone. That's good.
And when I was flunking out of MSU and Dad's like, what is wrong with you, Mark? What's wrong with you? Dad, I just don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And my dad said, Mark, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And I felt like, okay, I'm not alone, you know. And we just, some of it's just luck, and some of it's just a little hard work, and some of it's just, you know, you set a goal and you get there, but that doesn't do it for you, and you might want something else, right? The other thing about Dad is that, from what I hear, Grandma used to write his or help him with his studies when he was a master's student at Michigan, right? And Grandpa was at MSU. He was like the first assistant dean there. They had a dean and an assistant dean, but by the time he retired, there was 9 associate deans, and they all had MDs and JDs and MBAs, and probably none of them had less than 3. And Dad had his MPH, and I thought, well, boy, Dad, what do you do there, And he said, well, I do accreditation. What's accreditation? It says, well, when we get money from the government, we have to kind of tell them what we did with it and what we're going to do with it. We're going to write a grant. And so what I learned from my dad was I think that he was a very good communicator, a very good organizer of thoughts, and very structured and grammatically correct. It was easy to read, reading ease. And I think that as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that the people at Ford that just aren't any good just can't get it together to communicate very well or write very well. He always used to say, "Oh, that hurts my ears. What did you say?" And it affects me. But eventually, and I never figured it out, but I figured out that I'm way better than most. Right?
You certainly are.
So that was kind of a backhanded compliment, Dad. You're not a brain surgeon, but you got other skills.
I was gonna say I agree with that third one because Grandpa also was on myself and Michelle's grammar, and so now we speak real good, Grandpa. Now, and anytime I hear someone else make a mistake, it's like, don't talk like that.
Well, one of the advantages that you had was you had your parents to listen to. You didn't have these people from the other side of from Lansing to listen to because their speech is different than the people in East Lansing. That's for sure.
So special moments. In conclusion.
I'm listening.
Many special moments, but one of my favorite moments is maybe when I graduate or maybe when I do something well. My parents will say, "I'm proud of you," and they say it quite a bit. And I always think back, it must have been awful tough on them to have such a rotten kid that was going the wrong way. And, for them to say, "I'm proud of you," it makes me feel good because I know I caused them a lot of heartache and worry and whatever. And that's a special moment when I do something well and they say that they're proud of me. And then most of my friends today are pretty darn envious of our family. I have friends that have broken families and dysfunctional families and whatever. And, when people tell me that they really think that I got lucky, that makes me feel good too.
That makes us feel good.
Yep, I agree with that statement as well. Everybody's normal and gets along, and then I hear like comedians talk about shitty families, and I'm like, I don't get this. Doesn't everyone just like each other? What's going on?
So that's everything I have prepared. Unless you have any further questions, I can freewheel it.
No, that was a great. I'm glad you stuck to the outline I sent out for the first one. I think it helped a lot. So I think we'll probably have Uncle Paul stick to that next too. That's great. Thanks a lot for putting your thoughts together.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Matt. We're proud of you too, doggone it.
I'm proud of Matt for sure. I brag about him all the time. What's your plan with this? All these interviews. What's kind of the long-term plan?
So once I can see the end in sight, then they're all going to start. Because I don't want to just release them as I go. I want to release them in like a regular, like one every 2 weeks or so. in podcast form. So you just like subscribe to it, and it pops up like any of your other podcasts. But then the much larger task, which who knows when I'll get to that, is I've also got the video recording going on too. So then I'm also going to put that onto YouTube, but that's more of a challenge because I'm also going to be putting in like pictures and things like that of like what we're talking about during the time. So like, for instance, like I might like throw in some pictures of like your Celine house on Google Street View and like any photos I can find and any photos Grandma and Grandpa can give me that I'll be putting in there. So that's a lot more time intensive though. So it's just audio first and then video as I get to it.
Nice.
We need to talk about this, Matt, with regard to my sister's memoirs and how we put that together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not right now, though.
It's I think it's like we've been doing this for maybe 2 years now, but I'm trying to accelerate it. So this should be. I don't see this taking more than 2 years after this, because after the kids are done, I think we might have like 6 to 8 more episodes, hopefully.
Helps a lot. Keeps it going.
Yeah. Because then it's just like, after that, it's kind of, we'll talk about, we've already done a lot. And, but then after that, we're just kind of, the rest of your life, how you're going. And then I also kind of want to have a few episodes on kind of your thoughts on life, like, you know, just your own personal, probably split up again and do like your own personal philosophy episode of like, we think about religion and money and politics and just kind of things like that, just to kind of, especially now that you've lived quite some time, you've got a very wide breadth of wisdom to pass along to everybody. So I'll give you a lot of preparation for that episode though.
Well, Matthew, if there's anything I can do to help with you, I've got a lot of photos. I've got everything that Grandma and Grandpa ever had on slides. I think I've got all the way through, maybe Celine, and then maybe a couple of years on slides in East Lansing before Dad started printing. I've got all sorts of stuff out there, and just let me know if I can help with anything.
Yeah.
I can even post them out on my G Drive and let you browse them if you want.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Bye-bye. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Keep your little family safe.
Bye, Matt. Bye, Mark.
Goodbye.
Guys.